Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum. We are out here today at the backup gun match, the bug match, and I decided that this would be a fun place to bring the brand new CZ75 Legend. So this is CZ's not reproduction, but like return to production in a limited scale of the very early short frame CZ75. After we do the match here, we'll take this inside and I'll compare it to an original CZ75 short frame, very early production for you. But first, let's do some shooting with it. Now, this is the backup gun match, and this is a service pistol, not a backup gun. So by the rules here, I am in Big 5 category, which means none of my magazines can be loaded with more than 5 rounds. So we won't be using the full 15 round capacity, just 5. Anyway, we've got 4 stages, so let's dive into it.
All right, shooter, do you understand the course of fire?
Yep.
You may load and make ready. Stand by!
All right, let's see how that did.
I already know that first one.
Down one.
So I'm down 1 there. It's close.
6.
That one was clean. Ah! There's my hit. That counts for 0 points, so I get 3. Close. Not close enough. Okay, in retrospect there, what I should have done was Barney load to 6 rounds and then put 2 center of mass on each target instead of trying for the headshots. Would have worked better probably, but oh well. All right, this one's going to involve many, many reloads.
Shooter ready.
Ready?
Stand by!
Missed one.
Didn't lock open.
And it didn't lock open on the last round. Yeah.
21,
Now,
range is safe. 21.
I have a mixture of old and new magazines.
Downs.
Yeah, so that last mag that didn't lock open was a very old one that came with a pre-B75 I have, so that's probably why.
777.
All right, so I thought it would be fun today to wear some tiger stripe because it's cool and it kind of fits the, well, it absolutely fits the time period of the CZ75 short rail and the CZ75 Legend. Now, if you are interested in tiger stripe, we actually have a Kickstarter campaign running right now with Headstamp Publishing on Tiger Stripe, the Vietnam Camouflage Story, which is an amazing, just about 800-page book on the history and the variations of tiger stripe, from the very first British windproof and French lizard camos all the way through all of the Vietnam War and up into modern day and reproduction use of tiger stripe. So I'll have a link to that Kickstarter in the description text. Check it out if you think this is a cool camo pattern.
Know what you're doing?
I mean, we'll find out.
Just don't miss. Shoot
Okay.
targets.
All right.
You may load and make ready. Give me a nod if you're ready.
Ready?
Stand by!
And I believe that's all of them. Not too
Range is
bad.
safe. That's 14.
All right, so the last time we had one of these stages, I figured I'll go for headshots instead of reloads, and that was a bad idea. And so this time, as I look at this, I'm thinking, I'm gonna go for headshots and try not to reload, because I bet it'll work this time.
Shooter ready.
Ready?
Stand by.
Drop. dropped 2.
I think I dropped 2 points, but that's not too bad.
7.
It's not terrible. This was a perfect shot. It was also at like 5 yards.
6.
Yeah, that's a good clean 6. And another 6. So I'll take it. All right, not bad. Not my best performance ever, but really fun to be able to bring out a, I want to keep saying reproduction, but it's really not really a reproduction. It's just a continuation of the very early and very iconic looking short frame CZ75. Now, let's go ahead and head back inside to the office, and let me show you this alongside an original example and compare and show you what's the same and what they changed. All right, so here is our CZ75 Legend. I don't want to call this a reproduction because it's the original manufacturer making the same design, so I will go ahead and call this a reissue. I think that's a suitable term. Here is one of the original CZ75 short frames. Obviously, the distinctive feature is the slab side front end, the short frame, compared to what would come later with the CZ, what are called the pre-B and the CZ75B models, where the frame, of course, comes out this much farther at the front end. All right, let's start with what they did right, which frankly is almost everything. These are really well done guns. It's a high quality, well manufactured gun. The frame is milled forging, just like the originals were. That's really cool to see. Obviously, they've got the profile, that most distinctive element done properly. They've also reproduced the original sort of waffle pattern grips. These changed during the pre-B era, but they've got the original style there. The controls are virtually identical. There's a tiny difference in profile on the safety lever between the original that's just slightly more rounded and the Legend that has a little bit of a corner to it, but I mean that is trivial. The hammer is the same. I've seen people say that the reissue hammers are a little wider. I took a micrometer to these and there's a difference of like 0.003 of an inch, which to me is irrelevant. It's the same hammer. We have the same style of markings, although a few details of the markings did change. That's really to be expected given that, well, Czechoslovakia no longer exists. So of course they are marked made in Czech Republic. The CZ logo on the slide here and also on the grips is the new logo. That's been their new logo for a long time. They even went ahead and put the serial number in the same place as it is on the original guns, which is pretty cool. The trigger guard profile is the same. This is the pre-B profile, or pre-B profile. Like all of those details, they did right. And if we take them apart, we can see another element that they did substantially right. And that is, this is my original slab side slide, which does not have a firing pin block in it, and neither does the new one, which is pretty cool. Firing pin block is a relevant and important safety mechanism in general. However, it's not strictly 100% necessary, and leaving it out allows you to have a little bit of a better trigger pull. Now, the CZ75B, the major development of the B model was the addition of a firing pin block. However, today, even CZ does not include a firing pin block on their Shadow 2 competition pistols. They left it off of this one as well, which I think is really cool. It would have been very easy for the company to put in a firing pin block out of general liability concern and just figure that no one's going to look inside the pistol to see it. The fact that they did, in fact, leave it out, I think is pretty cool. Now, these slides are not interchangeable. You can see that there are some substantial differences in the exact milling of those slides. The fire control groups in the frames are also not quite identical. The modern gun essentially has Shadow 2 fire control parts in it. According to CZ, they are not actually drop-in Shadow 2 parts, but essentially they took the same mechanism, I think, and made a few little modifications to get it to fit the original slab side style frame. So you do get a quite modern fire control group, good quality parts, and a really good trigger pull that is every bit the equal of the original CZ75 slab sides. There is one safety feature that wasn't present on the original short frames that is present on the Legend, and that is a half cock That, I think, is a very good idea. Not having a half cock doesn't save you anything in terms of trigger pull. It doesn't gain you anything. It's just a legit safety issue. If you go to manually cock the gun and slip, drop the hammer and fire when you don't intend to, that really is a problem. So CZ added the half cock pretty quickly in their original production, and they went ahead and made it standard for the Legends. A couple other things. The CZ75 Legend does not have drop-free magazines, and neither did the original short frames. That just sort of barely pops out, and then you have to pull it out. However, they went ahead and made the Legend, they've profiled the inside of the magazine well for the CZ75B magazines, which are slightly different in very fine detail from the early magazines. So you can, two easy ways to tell these apart. The B magazines have a magazine catch on both sides to allow for an ambidextrous magazine release. The early mags only have it on the right side. Our witness holes are different. The modern mags have 3 witness holes on the left and none on the right. The early mags have 2 on the left and 1 on the right. And lastly, and this is actually a bit relevant, you can see the slot here for the hold open is slightly different. So the Legend, oh, and in addition, the B magazines, the later magazines, are just a hair bigger dimensionally. So they don't necessarily fit early guns. However, in my case, this is one of the magazines that came with the Legend, and it fits just perfectly fine in my original short rail, and my early magazines fit just perfectly fine in the Legend. However, because of the difference in that follower tab, the Legend will not lock open on one of the very early CZ magazines. There's just not enough space, not enough footprint right there for the catch to index on. So it does lock open on the modern mags. This is something that I discovered, you saw it just a few minutes ago. I discovered out at the match. I hadn't really thought about it before that. So magazines are basically interchangeable, but strictly speaking, they're the later B model magazines, and that makes sense. These are the mags that are available today. There's such a slim difference between the two magazines that using new mags makes perfect sense. That's fine. Right, and then even some of the little small details, like the use of flathead screws for the grip panels, were properly done on the Legend. Now, let's take a moment and talk about the things that they didn't do quite right. So we already mentioned that the markings changed just slightly. That's understandable. I don't think there's any way to get around that. You know, we're going to have modern proof marks on a gun that was made in modern times. There's nothing, like CZ's not going to go out of their way to try and change that. However, there are a couple of more substantial changes from the original. One of them here that doesn't really bug me, but it is noticeable once you see it, is this bevel in the frame. It does not exist in the original short frames, and I think the reason for this is that when they did go to the later long frame design, you can see that it's got that bevel right here, which then extends out into this undercut in the frame. And I suspect the forging materials that they had available or that they made for the reissues were based on this frame and then just cut back. However, you still get that little bit of a detail right there. So that's a visible difference between the reissue and the originals. And then there are two things that do actually kind of bug me. One of them is the finish. The original short frames had a high polish blued finish. It's gorgeous, and I think it really is indicative of the era when these were made. The really high attention to detail, high quality production standards of the very early CZ75s. Now, the reissue has a matte blued finish. It's still blued, but it is matte. To me, it doesn't look nearly as good as the original high polish bluing. To be fair to CZ, it is in every practical way a better finish. Like, this thing you can see is covered in fingerprints. This is not, and it's not ever going to be. This is more wear resistant. It's more scratch resistant. It's a better finish. It just doesn't quite have the look of that original high polish blue to me. And so that made me a little bit sad. The second one is the rear sight. And this, I think, was entirely within CZ's power to not do wrong, but they did. The rear sight has two luminous dots in it. They're not actually glow in the dark, but there are two painted rear sight dots. The front sight has nothing on it. Like, the front sight is exactly as it should be, and this leads you to having this kind of weird sight picture where I've got dots on the back but not the front. You know, in a practical sense, if I was only going to have one sight marked like that, I would want it to be the front, not the back. The original does not have any markings at all, and I'm not really sure why they couldn't come up with a way to put the right style of rear sight on the gun. That's the sort of thing that I'm literally, like, by definition, going to see every time I actually shoot. Overall, though, these are really pretty minor gripes. CZ has done so much better on this reissue than I've seen with most other companies trying to do this sort of historical callback, you know, limited edition, collector's edition production run. These are great. The short frame guns are expensive. You know, they're $3,000, maybe more, and they're hard to find. There just are not very many of these in the country. There wasn't a lot of production, and when they were originally in production, they weren't being exported to the United States. So this particular one came from Royal Tiger out of, I believe, Slovakian internal Ministry of the Interior police who had it for decades. There are a few that came back from West Germany back when these were being produced, but overall they're really quite scarce. To be able to just get one that is retail and available today is really cool. And price point on these is $1,400 from CZ, which I think is very fair for the different amount of, you know, for the amount of work that had to go into this to make it a pretty darned accurate reissue of the original. That costs money. Specific, unique parts for this, things like the new molds for the grips. I get it. I think their price point is really quite good. This is not intended to be a more practical, more effective pistol than a brand new, you know, a Shadow 2 or one of CZ's polymer framed pistols. This is meant specifically for collectors, but to be something that is entirely shootable and frankly will take the place. I think for a lot of people, a lot of collectors who do have original short frames are probably going to find themselves taking the new Legends out to the range instead, because they shoot just as well, they look virtually the same, they handle exactly the same, and it means you're not putting wear and tear on what is now a 50-year-old gun. So anyway, that's my take on them. Full disclaimer here, CZ did send me this Legend to use for the video and to keep, so I may have a bias there, but I did, like, they didn't provide the original one, and that's the valuable one of these two. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.